What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Christian Witch Podcast. I'm your host, Chosen, also known as at Healers House HTX over on all social media platforms. Yes, you heard that correctly if you're a longtime listener. I have updated my branding and name to Healers House HTX, and actually, we'll be launching the Healers House podcast soon. So, this podcast will stick around. It'll focus on witchcraft, magic, mediumship, and all of those things, especially of benefit to those coming from a Christian background. But I am going to be talking about spirituality, healing work, energy work, and mediumship as well as a professional healer and medium over on the Healers House podcast. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And if you see any updated names, it is not a con artist trying to pretend to be me. It's actually me. I've updated it to Healers House HTX. So yeah, and if this is your first time finding me, hi, my name is Chosen. That's my spiritual name. My real name is Wesley. I'm a certified professional psychic medium, full-time healer, and I am also a pastor of an online church for about 15,000 people. And so, long story short, what we do around here is healing work. Everything we do is healing focused, and we love all things witchy, magical, supernatural, and yeah. So, in today's episode, we're joined by one of my really, really good friends in IRL in real life, Brian, also known as White Raven 41 Magic on TikTok. Fresh page, go follow him. He has tons of great information about runes, candle spells to get your lover back. No, I'm just kidding.
Maybe eventually. My name's
Yeah.
Brian, guys. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself. You're Brian. Tell them what you do or like what you focus on magically, mediumship wise, healing, all that stuff.
So, I am also a medium. I do tarot card readings,
Sure does.
and I do rune
He sure
readings.
does.
Yeah.
You don't have to stop when I comment.
Oh, okay. So, I actually work at the local occult store here in Houston at the Magic Cauldron. I also just started a Etsy shop called The Raven's Red Thread. And we're going to be carrying like candles and oils and malas, prayer beads, rosaries, not just focused on Christianity or Buddhism, but like a nice eclectic source of different spiritual entities and focuses. Um, and then I my my Instagram is just more so for like information, getting information that I think is worthy of being out there. I'm just kind of playing on it.
Yeah, figuring it out,
Yeah,
right?
for
So it's
sure.
not he's not selling you guys anything. So by all means, but that is a place to connect, follow, see what he has to offer, what he brings to the table. He has an incredible mind, an expansive knowledge in the occult and metaphysical spaces, and he is one of the few people who I can have deep, deep conversations about cosmological and occult philosophy topics, and it's really, really awesome. And also, besides that, he's a really good friend, and he's there through a lot. So Brian's amazing. I'm excited he's joining me here for this episode. And we're actually going to be talking about here's what we're going to do. We're going to pretend like we have a topic, but then we're going to get off track and we're going to just chit chat. But we are going to try for the first minute or two to discuss Pennsylvania Dutch magic. So, Braucherei, the Pow-Wow traditions. Brian actually knows a lot more about this than I do, but we wanted to talk about the similarities and how there's like that faith undertone there.
Yeah, so it was really interesting because like he invited me on the podcast and I was like, what are going to be the topics? Because I wanted to be all fancy and do some research beforehand so I wasn't nervous.
Oh, we don't roll like that.
Yeah,
No, this is a go with the flow, down to
but
earth.
I was thinking about the fact that you're a healer, and
True, true that.
I was thinking about the fact that you're also Christian,
I do that as well.
and it just reminded me of my own training. I trained in Black Forest tradition of witchcraft, and um, part of that training is Pennsylvania Dutch powwow magic, folk healing, and folk spells and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. And I've also been learning a little bit more about like Louisiana hoodoo and things like that. And they've got something called treaters,
Mm-hmm.
very very similar to the powwow tradition in a lot of ways, or at least from an outside perspective, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, and this idea of like just having somebody pray over you and like invite divine energy in, and miraculous things happen, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And yet there's like techniques behind it too, you know.
Yeah.
and it's usually based on like local herbs kind of combined in there, and like the traitors or the treaters in Louisiana, they do shit like if you're hot, they put herbs that are supposed to cool on your head and like make you sit there while they say prayers over you.
Mm-hmm.
There's something called like the taken off in Pennsylvania Dutch powwow magic, where you take like a red string and you're basically doing like an aura cleansing, and then you burn it at the end.
Mm.
Um, just fun stuff like that. I think one of my favorites on the powwow stuff is like if you think that you're cursed, you take one of your shirts, you turn it inside out, and then you like wedge it in your door. You close the door on it, like you're shutting the door on evil, right?
Oh my god, that's so
But
cool.
it's just kind of like it's so simple too. That's the part of the
It's
thing
an
that
act
just
of
really,
faith. It's a symbolic act of faith, which is magic on one level, you know?
yeah. I think that these traditions too, like I'm always amazed by the way that they're thinking and the sympathetic, like the symbolic, and how
Mm-hmm.
it makes. When I was growing up, my parents told me I had no common sense, right? But when I read stuff like this, I'm like, oh, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Like folk magic, sympathetic magic, symbolic acts make way more sense than some of the things that like people expect you to just kind of get. And
Yeah.
anyway,
No, 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 no. I'm listening. That's very, very true. So for those wondering and those maybe who are just finding this is the first episode, sympathetic magic is kind of that. It's one version of magic, right? It's like this idea that this corresponds with that over there, and what I do to this affects that, kind of, right? And that's just one theory within that umbrella. But like this would be like why people ask for like in movies you'll be like you'll see people like if they're gonna go to like a spell worker they'll be like can I get a lock of hair or a toenail or something that the
yeah,
the, the target wore.
yeah, like we call them
Um,
contagions,
yes,
taglocks,
tag loss contagions.
signatures.
Yes, and the idea is that this touched that, and therefore there's a connection, right? So what I noticed about how, and again, I'm not as well versed. I did read The Long Lost Friend years ago. Um,
Interesting piece of writing.
yeah.
It had really good useful stuff like talismans even.
Mm-hmm.
Then it had really funky stuff like if you want to get rid of a cold, rub your fingers between your toes and smell your fingers.
Yeah.
You know.
Here's the deal though, is that those acts of faith that you're like there's techniques, or there's what you said, there's techniques. A lot of them, especially the ones that get passed down, are the ones that they like. It worked when they did it. They
Mhm.
they did this with the intention, and like we know on different levels, like they're directing energy, right?
Mhm.
Like, but they're giving themselves something to do in the physical that's corresponding to that energy. They're
For
saying, "Hey, this is what's going to happen when I do this."
for sure.
And that's very much
Absolutely.
what sympathetic magic is, like even like with cleansing rituals, like, or if you want the rain to fall, maybe you pour a little water in your spell, or so on and so forth.
Yeah, so like one of my favorite things to do is like candle spells where one candle represents a person, and another candle represents the other person, and then to get them to like reunite or come together, you just move them slowly closer and closer together, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just like there's something that resonates on the inside when you're like, this is this and this is this, and now they're doing this, and
Yeah,
just makes sense.
yeah, and I mean, and a it gives a direction. So in the church, like we would often, um, like this is non-magical speaking, but like if you know, you know. Like they would do things called acts of faith, prophetic acts of faith. They would pull down resources from heaven. They would lay hands on the sick for healing. Um, they would like draw a line and step into the reality that they wanted, which was something I actually used to so intuitively years ago when I first started like wanting to make products and stuff before um I ever really got into making witchy products. I made this manifestation salt
Hmm.
and I called it dust or something like that. So powerful, still have some, smells amazing, have the recipe. But I would sell it, and the idea is you take some, and it had all of the magical correspondences, come to find out. Um, you would take the salt and you would hold it in your hand and you would think about the reality you want to step into as if it already is. Put yourself in that situation, and then you would sprinkle a line and you would step into that reality as if it was a portal. It's like you were opening a portal with that manifestation.
That is so cool.
Best.
I mean, I love energy work too, right? So what we're talking about is like I am not going to say that the way that quantum physics is necessarily talked about or used in the new age and magical world is necessarily like philosophically or mathematically right, but the concepts work, right? When you put them into
Mm-hmm.
action in ritual and spells and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So this idea of like literally I would go on walks and I would think about what needed to change in my life and I would
Mm-hmm.
look for a natural place that looked like a threshold,
Yeah.
right? And I would basically create a portal like you were talking about
Yeah.
and walk through it and then spend a moment like feeling the change from one reality to the other because our reality is constantly going in and out, right?
Yeah.
And changing. When someone leaves the room and they come back, is it actually the same person?
Oh my God, don't be creepy.
But I mean, like when you close your eyes and you wake up, the world is literally new,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a completely different world. So if you need to change something, then you like focus on your intention before you go to sleep. And then when you wake up, you like live as if the change that you're looking for has already happened.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is the quantum physics thing. It's like the quantum science, like this is not even new age or metaphysical. Although new age, woo-woo, metaphysical, whatever people want to slander it, it works. It doesn't matter. Um, but
Agreed.
quantum science is actually the most reliable science that there is. It's more reliable than medical science, and I actually brought this up to you recently. So outside of this, I am a therapist. Well, I'm wrapping up my credentials as a therapist, but I'm using the same techniques I've been using for 10 years, right? But I'm also a therapist. That way, I can open the door to helping people that don't really want to hear about the magical side of things or the spiritual side of things. And we actually talk about it. They talk about how quantum science, it doesn't matter, like it always gets the same result. In medical science doesn't even do that, and we stake our life on medical science. So if quantum science is saying that things line up, here's the thing. Years ago, we had these quantum principles that of how energy works and whatnot. And like one angry person on the internet was like, well, that wasn't proven, blah, 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 blah. And everyone latched onto this like one article and they thought it was disproven. And then it was like, no, actually, you're just a freaking troll that nobody clocked. And
So
so
so here's the
quantum
thing.
science does work, you guys. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if it doesn't work, because I'm going to tell you something else. Your mind does not care if what you believe or what you tell it is true. It will believe it. So if it's
So
true or false, it will believe it.
so quantum physics is a really fascinating thing, and if you actually listen to quantum physics PhD scientists and stuff like that, they sound like philosophers because the things that they're discovering are literally universal truths that have been said in a thousand different ways in ancient texts, right, in different cultures, um, and and they do work. You're absolutely
Mm-hmm.
100% right. I think that there's a really good book called the Science of the Craft. It's out of print now, but the guy
Mm.
was actually a PhD and talked about quantum physics
Mm-hmm.
and how they relate to energy work, reality jumping, the different quantum theories that are out there, and then how to actually integrate them into your practice.
Yeah,
And I've had excellent results with his ideas.
I
But
love that.
we're talking about healing and stuff like that, and I think that the big thing that all the gestures, rituals, movements, and things that we do, the traditional chants in like powwow, they help alter your mind so that you get into a space that you can hold the truth of what you want to have happen
Yeah,
long enough for it to manifest.
yeah,
And
exactly what's happening.
you know, it works.
It does work.
We really are like in the mind of God and can create radical change immediately.
Yeah, we're
Some
cut from the same creative power, right? And what you're saying is absolutely true. So part of what rituals do is it's not just shifting consciousness, it's not just altering consciousness, it's shutting down the part of you that would object. That's actually what's going on there.
mhm.
Is we're getting past that part of you that would say you're not good enough for this. You're shutting it down enough to believe in it, and you get more of the energy you feed. And so when you start saying, this is my reality, this, and it is so, this is what I experience, that those kinds of things, right? That is what happens because, and it's the thing about it is it's not just on a mental level, right? We exist on several layers. Physically, we're doing the gestures. Mentally, we're shutting down that part of our brain. Emotionally, we're feeling those things, and divinely, we're connecting to source. And I know there's a couple other ones you can break down. Not the point. The point is that we're corresponding on all of those layers. We're exercising our authority and power over in our entire existence to co-create the outcome that we want. You know?
You're absolutely right. Like, so they talk about the observer effect being the major effect in quantum physics, right? And
Mm-hmm.
all of the ritual stuff, that observer within us, that's our God consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
right? All we're doing is moving out of the way so that we can tap into the part of us that actually does the work.
Yeah.
We're all of us at the core, at least I think most healers think of themselves as channels rather than the one actually committing the healing, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's coming from something beyond, and still a part of ourselves, right? Like, one of the reasons why I like witchcraft is because divinity, for me, the goddess, is both transcendent and eminent. She's in me, she's in you, she's in the table, she's everywhere, she's everything, right?
Yeah.
There is no separation. Um, and I also think about the fact that, like, the gestures and stuff, which they all have a lot of purpose. A lot of them are crosses and things like
Yes.
that,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Symbols of power. Yeah.
Spirals, moving things away or in, and ways of moving energy. But more than that, it's also like a way of getting the person that you're healing into that same headspace that you
Yes.
are in too.
Mm-hmm.
You're creating a resonance between you and them.
Yeah. I agree 100%. And this is why those folk practices worked. Rubbing your fingers between your toes and smelling it probably worked because you got into that headspace. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
Also what I think is so cool is that we're able to have these conversations, and I don't think it needs to be said because this podcast is not just for Christians, but um, what I love is that through this podcast, I've had discussions with people from all backgrounds, and it just occurred to me that it may sound like you have a faith background, but like tell me a little bit more about your practice. Like, so a minute ago, you said for you, the goddess, you trained in the Black Forest tradition, and I know you're eclectic and have
Yeah.
contained multitudes, but
So I mean, I still, at the core of my belief, you know, consider myself pagan. I grew up Christian. I grew up with a Methodist background. My grandmother was Southern Baptist, and I
mhm,
went to a private Lutheran church.
cute.
Um, I see. I have no issue with Christianity. I'm just take a more polytheistic view. All gods are real. They're all faces of divinity. They're all
Mhm,
parts of spirit, right? Working for our greater good and for their own function and place.
mhm,
Um, I I do consider myself a witch still. It's funny because the more that I practice things like, I mean, and I'm not a root doctor, but in my own personal practice, I practice some hoodoo,
mhm.
and some ceremonial magic, and those are really strongly Christian based.
Yeah,
And so I find that as I work with those, like, I'm kind of making peace with my upbringing.
yeah,
I only fell out of the church mostly because of being a gay man,
yeah.
right? I actually was on track to become a Christian
Oh my
minister,
god.
um, and I just couldn't. I couldn't reconcile my challenges with, like, my sexuality with what I was being told by those who were in charge of the church at the
Yeah.
time. Um,
And since then, they changed their mind. That's what's wild.
It's true, but also, like, since I was like 5, I was running around thinking I was a witch,
Same.
and picking up
100%.
picking up stones and, being like, I'm charging this to be my talisman,
Oh my
and
god, I love that.
you know, um,
It was innate.
and so I picked up practicing when I was 17 on my own. Practiced solitary witchcraft, and then I took some classes at the Magic Cauldron that I now work at, which is kind of crazy.
Full circle. Love it.
I know, right? And then I did a full training to become an ordained minister in Wicca. Um, and the thing is that even though that is my foundation and it will never change, I'm constantly growing and learning. And I understand that I do not have the answers. And I think that all religion, I mean, has truth in it, but it's trying to make sense of something that is so beautiful and powerful and awe-inspiring and beyond human words, um, that
Yeah.
that we none of us have it quite right,
We can't
right?
possibly figure it all out,
Right, exactly.
you
None of
know?
us have it quite right, and I for sure I want to figure it out, but I for sure don't know.
Yeah.
All I know is that I like magic and I like Wicca mostly because have direct experiences with the divine in my life.
Yeah.
Um, those coincidences stack up to the point where you're like, this it can't be, you know,
Yeah. Probability's out the window.
it's out the window,
After the 15th spell that's gone right.
right?
Just kidding.
And you wonder, I mean, there's doubt at first.
Mhm.
Like, I am just standing here like a crazy person.
Oh, speaking of, I was doing that today. So lately, I've been getting back into manipulating and facilitating energy when I'm not doing healing work or when I'm not. Hold on one second. My cat has lost its mind. Get down from here. What are you doing? Do you want to be on the podcast? No? Okay.
Oh, you
I don't know if you guys
cutie.
could hear her or not, but not even my cat. It's my niece, my cousin's cat, which doesn't actually make sense in the family tree, but not the point. So, anyways, I've been playing with energy when I'm not working, right? Because I manipulate healing energy all the time. I am a professional medium. I do all kinds of readings all the time. I'm constantly with energy, but I have been for fun playing with energy. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I'm like creating different shapes with it and whatnot. And so feeling like a weirdo, like I'm nuts and lost my mind. Like earlier, I was like, okay, let's take this energy, throw it across the room, have it stay there, and see if I could feel it with my eyes closed when I got to it. Totally could. And it was just like one of those moments where you're just like, I forget how cool this is.
It's so cool.
It's so cool, like to play with.
I remember I was doing like it was pretty, I'd say intermediate energy work with my student.
I conjured an energy sword earlier. It was
Oh yeah,
so
so fun.
freaking cool.
Yeah.
And you could see it and everything. I was just like, why don't I do this more often when I'm bored? I'm always like, anyways, go ahead. Sorry. I
So
literally just,
this is in the same vein because like
mm,
literally like we started with energy balls and like changing colors and like literally they have no idea what energy or color I'm focusing
mm-hmm.
on and they're telling me as I hand them the ball like
Oh, yeah,
what
yeah,
color
yeah,
it
yeah,
is.
the games, yeah.
I like directed it to a different area of the room and I'm like, okay, now where is it now? She's telling me exactly where it
Mm-hmm.
is, I was doing this too and like there's no way that it would be like a mass hallucination, which doesn't exist.
Yeah,
It's
we
not a
can't
real
be
thing.
hallucinating the same thing, you guys.
Um, I also was all like, okay, now imagine that there's a little cabinet, and when you open that cabinet, you can pull out any magical ingredient that you need. Anything.
Cute. I like
Like it's
this.
a portal dimension to your inner temple where you can grab anything that you need on the astral planes. That
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I was like, here are my cords. Here's a rope. Here's an athame, and she's looking at me like
Mm.
I'm batshit crazy. But the thing is that you know, as a witch, you can do magic anywhere at any time,
Yeah,
and um, it's just amazing. It's fun,
it is
and
fun.
I used to think it took me a long time to realize that imagination isn't just play; it's literally the vehicle through which we tap into the other world.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. I was um by the way, had a client yesterday said that you recommended to me, so thanks for that. But actually, I told them this, and I've said this in the podcast 1,000 times, but your imagination is your third eye. It's the imaging center of the mind. Imagination doesn't mean false, it means imaging center. And like that is where pure energy gets translated into symbols we understand and where we put symbols that we understand to send back into the universe, right? Like into existence. And so, yeah. And so, back to all of this folk magic and faith healing and whatnot. Like even in the church, like when you knew how to pray, when people are like, "Oh, you can tell they know how to pray," it's because in your mind you're seeing the healing happen. You're seeing light. Like we would like they'd be like, "Extend your hands towards so and so. We're going to pray for a breakthrough or pray for physical healing." I was in a Christmas play like a year or two before I left like my old church. I was the star of the play. Go figure. And no, I'm just kidding. No, I
No
actually
surprise there.
no, I couldn't believe it because they like tried to keep me down because they didn't. So first of all, I led a small group in my home that we nicknamed Hogwarts for Christians, because I taught people how to operate in miracle signs and wonders, and we would have people get healed and all these miraculous signs and people growing and like I'm leading these ministries and like they would let me lead worship and stuff. Sometimes I led worship privately and like the other in other areas for years, but they did not want me to become the face of the church because people liked me. They
Mm.
told me literally they said it to um, they literally said it. They were like, we didn't want them to think that we endorse homosexuality
Ooh.
because he operates in miracle signs and wonders. The anointing is on him, and everyone likes him. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. You held me down for 8 years because of that? It was just wild, right? And so,
Humans doing human
yeah,
stuff.
right? And literally Holy Spirit the whole time was like when I was like cuz I was at like you understand you guys. I've had authentic encounters with Holy Spirit, with God, with Jesus. So, if at any point the people that I love and trust are saying, "Hey, you should consider if something is right or wrong," I'm going to God and I'm saying, "Is there a possibility that I'm incorrect?" I'm more concerned with the truth about the situation than I am about being right or wrong. Okay, and so I that's my character and everything. All right.
Mm.
So, anyways, my point being is, I forgot what my point was. Hold on, wait. Spirit, what was it? My point was, oh, I was like, okay, did I do something? Am I doing something incorrect? And Holy Spirit just said, Wesley, Jesus would have never treated you the way that they treated you. They would have never said the things they said to you or done those things. I was just like, oh my God, that is all I needed to hear. Like, we make excuses all the time, right? So, anyways, moving on.
Well, one
Um,
thing that I wanted to say,
mhm,
you bring this up, and I had to spread it because I thought it was so beautiful. Somebody on a little clip on Facebook or something was basically said that they went to church one day and they came home and they asked their mother because they had been talking about hell. They said,
mhm,
"Am I going to go to hell?" And she took a match and she lit it, and she goes, "Do you think I could burn you with this? With how much I love you?" And she blew the match out. She goes, "I could never hurt you.
that's
So
beautiful.
why do you think God, who can
Yeah,
loves you so much more, would ever do anything
yeah,
to hurt you?"
mhm,
And I was like, that's part of my worldview, right?
yes,
Like, God is love, right?
yeah,
And it's us that fuck it up, you know.
right?
We're learning, right?
Mm, some of us. I'm just kidding. I'm
we're
just kidding.
all of the you know we yeah we jokingly, I mean, yeah, but we're all trying,
hmm
right? Even if we're at different places,
Yeah,
we're all doing our best.
yeah. I agree 100%. That absolutely is beautiful. So, anyways, what was I saying about it? Oh, the reason I was shocked they let me be in the star of the Christmas play is because of all that, right? Um, Nailed it. It was amazing. People loved it. However, that day I woke up with a migraine. I could not see it. Like my eyes were blurry. And I was the star of the play. I had to be there that
Hmm.
morning. And so I got there and I'm like walking and like I look like I'm handicapped pretty much. And I'm just like, I'm here. I'm going to try my best. And they all laid hands on me in an instant. That headache was gone.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so faith healing, again, it's there's similarities, right? Magic, healing, praying, whatever you want to call it, there's going to be these techniques that people realize, oh, this works. And I will tell you what is key that I always see results with is when there's compassion.
Absolutely.
Compassion, it's like it unlocks the flow.
Yeah, I mean, so in like Pennsylvania Dutch magic, right? The method is that you have compassion for somebody. You're willing to try. That's what they call. That's
Yes.
the reason why they call it trying,
Yeah.
right? You're hurting, and I want to try to help you,
Yeah.
right? Um, and and you don't get, there's no pay for it,
Yeah.
right? It's literally just coming from a place of love,
Mhm.
right? Traitors are the same way,
Mhm.
right? They don't charge for their healings.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, I think it's one thing when like Reiki is completely different. They actually tell you that you have to charge for it for
Yeah,
an
so
energy
it's
exchange,
yeah, so
right?
just for clarity for people listening, we're not saying not to charge. I charge, it's correct and beneficial. There should always be an exchange. We're just talking about how in some traditions, certain things they
Right,
it's that's the whole point is that they're doing it from compassion.
right. And that it keeps. I think for those traditions, those mechanisms are there to keep uh, that compassion in the forefront of the
Yeah,
process, right?
yeah.
Um,
Like I pray for people all the time. I send healing all the time that outside of sessions, right?
mhm.
So yeah.
I mean, one of my favorite meditations is like heart-centered meditation,
Mm-hmm.
where you start with self-love, and then you send love to those that are close to you. Then you send love to those who you're having problems with,
Yeah.
and then you send love to the world,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and I use that in my daily practice. Um, it keeps me open-hearted. You know, in a world that can sometimes seem a little rough.
Yeah. And I think that's really where for me, so like coming from again that Christian background, I always tell people in witchcraft, magic, mediumship, if you're developing from that place, like relationship and getting to know the character of Holy Spirit is so important because when I compassion, I feel like brings the power to change something. You just look at a situation and say, "Oh, you don't have to suffer." Like, and I'm grateful for the the training and the ministries that I was fortunate enough to be a part of, even though they had their own issues, like they were light years ahead of a lot of the church. And they taught us that um like ministry, Christ ministry is a ministry of power, not powerlessness. And miracle signs and wonders should be the the ministering. It's not about convincing them theologically or through debate. It's not about converting them. It's I see you. You don't have to suffer. There is a source of power that can help you, and I'm going to facilitate that for you currently.
Yeah,
That's the heart posture.
right.
It's like you don't owe me anything. You don't have to say anything. What do you want to be healed right now? So again, it's just there's these underlying currents where like compassion really is the key, and I think it's cool because earlier I was saying like in the church, like you really figured out who knew how to pray because you would see things getting done, so to speak.
Right.
But really, it was because they were speaking intentionally. They were directing energy. They found whatever worked for them and they leaned into it. And that's
Right.
what's similar in all these other even folk magical practices that don't have like a huge tradition behind them, things that people make up and pass down through their family. It's
Right.
because it works that we keep doing it.
Right.
Yeah. So
100%. Um, and you know, I don't know. When you were talking about the heart posture too, I was thinking about the fact that like when I'm doing a tarot card reading or when I'm offering any service,
mhm.
if it's about that getting out of the way part too,
Yes.
right? It's not
Mhm.
about me. It's
Yeah.
not about me at all.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that also you were talking about the fact that getting things done, um, and feeling it, right? Like I think that's part of the reason why, and experiencing it. I think that's part of the reason why I'm really drawn to magic and witchcraft is because it's results based.
It's experiential
It's
knowledge.
experiential knowledge,
Yes.
right? It's an experience, and there's wisdom that gets gleaned from that
Yeah. That's
process.
how it all should be. Like we shouldn't be like convincing ourselves because things sound nice.
Right. I
In my
shouldn't,
opinion.
I shouldn't have to base my life and my decisions based off of what somebody thinks might be right,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Um, so that's
Yeah,
just
the
my
heart
opinion.
posture though, especially with the readings, it's like it doesn't matter how good you are. You could have just rattled off someone's social security number to them. Like I, like their driver's license number, their grandma's first name, where they buried the treasure. It doesn't matter how accurate you are. There's times where you even just have imposter syndrome or I need to like I want to be right or I want to give good information because I want them to feel this is worth it. That's not even the right attitude. Like for me, what really gets me out of the way is when I'm like, I compassion. It's that connection. It's like I'm here to give and I don't care if I look stupid, if I come across crazy. I'm willing to risk it for the sake of healing for this person.
So this past week was a really cool experience, and I felt imposter syndrome when I was giving this reading.
Mm.
This person asked me why their birds kept dying. They had had like 5 birds die. Hmm?
Never mind, go ahead.
So you know, I thought that was a difficult question because I don't normally get questions like that, and this is a
Mm-hmm.
tarot card reading. So I start reading, and I'm like, this barely makes any sense to me, right? I can't quite grasp the symbols, right? But I'm telling them things like, oh, somebody was young and reckless, and they didn't mean to do anything harmful, but like something happened. And then I was telling them that there was some kind of um, specific other kind of attack, right? And it was painful for me because I started to feel the pain, and I was like, this
Mm-hmm.
isn't what this person needs. And so
Yeah.
I actually started doing mediumship instead,
Yeah.
and I gave them messages from the pets who had died.
There we go.
And but what's funny is that for as confused as I was with the tarot card reading, when I was done, the mother goes like the son had gotten in the room and let the bird out, and the cat got to it. Like she
Mm.
started like telling me that even though I didn't feel like I was right, everything I said
Yes.
matched exactly what had happened, and I was
Yeah.
like, that is so creepy and cool,
No, I
right?
know, right?
Um, and but I think that too, like that, I was like, no, this person doesn't need to hear. They already know the
Mm-hmm.
pain. They need to hear the healing message,
Exactly.
and it was beautiful. And I like told them the color of the birds and everything without them telling me anything. It was cool, very cool.
Yeah, that's freaking cool. It never ceases to be amazing how no matter how long we do this. So, alrighty, you guys. Well, that has been our podcast episode. Listen, White Raven 41 Magic on TikTok. Go check him out. Brian, he has wonderful videos. Again, he can teach you how to make people love you. He can teach you how to win the lottery. He can teach you how to take presidential office.
I mean, I can teach you spells to do all those things. I do not guarantee success,
I'm
but
just kidding for those of you
I
who don't know.
I will say thank you, Chosen. Thank you, Wesley, for having me on your podcast. It's been an honor.
Oh, that's sweet. Of course. I'm glad that we finally did this. We've been talking about it for a minute. Um, just chit chatting and whatnot. Also, this is kind of like our how our conversations go. Maybe not intentional, but we tend to talk about these kind of things a lot.
For
So,
sure.
but yeah, all right, you guys. So that's the podcast. We will see you soon. If you need to get a hold of me, you can go to at Healers House HTX on any social media platform, or ChristianWitchHTX.com is still available currently. If you would like to book a transformational healing session, if you need physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual healing, we can help with pain, addiction, anxiety, depression, sexual concerns, self confidence, concentration, memory issues, all kinds of things. And we can get you relief in that first session. So, or if you would like to book a professional psychic mediumship reading, ChristianWitchHTX.com or the link in any of my bios on social media can take you to that place. But I am so excited that we did this and we're going to wrap up here. But we love you guys. Bless everyone who hears this, and we'll see you soon. Bye.